Literally errors occurring. Okay, we're live. Yay, we saw an error occurred and we were worried that we wouldn't be able to go live today. But I'm so happy to whoever is watching right now. If you're listening, welcome to the Nonprofit Nation LinkedIn Live, also podcast recording with your host. Of course, I'm Julia Campbell. And today we have a really interesting topic that I can't wait to dive into. I would love to also hear from all of you, your questions, your feedback. We're going to share the link where you can actually get the report for yourself. Today, we're going to talk about how to understand generational giving trends, but not just understand them, how to take action to truly raise more money at year end and be more effective and efficient with your fundraising and your targeting. So in this episode, in this LinkedIn Live, in this episode of the podcast, which we are putting it also on my podcast, I am so excited to sit down with Wendy Mercurio, the content and education specialist at Qgiv and Bloomerang. And we're going to dig into the juicy findings from their latest generational giving report. So we're going to break down what makes each generation of donors tick, from boomers to Gen Z. And we're also going to share some actionable insights that you can use right now to up your fundraising game. So Wendy, welcome. And thank you so much for being on the podcast again and being on a LinkedIn Live.
Yes, I am thrilled. This is fun to do on LinkedIn Live. So I hope you all are ready to chat. I hope you have a lot of comments and questions ready, but I'm excited to talk about the report.
Yes, I really want to talk about it. So can you provide us sort of with an overview of the report and why, what are the key motivations behind its development?
Yes. So this is technically volume 2 of the Generational Giving Report. The previous version launched the survey in January of 2020. So kind of a strange time to take some donor temp checks. And so we all know, right? Everything's different. I don't need to elaborate too much on that, but fundraising looks so different. And so what we really wanted to learn in this report is the ways that folks are firstly discovering nonprofits, what their involvement preferences look like, right? Are they volunteering? Will they do peer-to-peer fundraising? What does that look like? And then how they're preferring to give, whether that's credit or debit, digital wallets, and then how they're wanting to stay in touch with those organizations and be stewarded. So each section of the report goes through discovery, involvement, giving, and stewardship for Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. And then just as a bonus, we created an omni-generational section of the report. And so this details universal preferences amongst every single generation and just areas of opportunity that we found from every generation as well. Totally made with the one-man development team in mind. So we really wanted to create a super focused guide to create the best fundraising guide possible. And so we're really excited about it.
I'm really excited. I love that. And I forgot that I need to be promoting a course that I'm teaching actually on September 25th that is taking a lot of the insights from the generational giving report. So if you would like to sign up, it's called the Online Fundraising Year-End Blueprint. I will talk a lot about how to approach different segments of your donation file, your donor file. And I'm going to dive really deeply into sort of how to use your website, social media, and email to increase your donations at year end. And a lot of it is driven by the insights in this report, actually. So I have one other link for you. If you would like to get your copy of the Generational Giving Report, Volume 2, go to my website, go to jcsocialmarketing.com/Qgiv. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit so people can make sure they get their copy of the report. And I will put all the links in the show notes and all the links in the chat. So what are some of the most surprising findings from this year's report, sort of compared to previous years?
Yeah, there's a few. Firstly, donors are having low expectations around thank you. So that was kind of a bummer. 60% of donors of all ages are not expecting a personal thank you after they
Oh,
give.
Lord.
I know. And then I was really excited to hear that word of mouth referrals are super powerful. So again, across every single generation, I think it was over 60%. I think it was like 62 or 63% of respondents of all ages said that they are turning to their network. They're asking their family, their friends, their coworkers how to find nonprofits, what nonprofits they're supporting. And that's how they're discovering, which I thought was really exciting. And then one stat that I thought was a really exciting area of opportunity is that only 20% of donors have had their donations matched by their employer. So double the donations says that 65% of Fortune 500 companies have some type of matching gift program. And then there's only 20% claiming those gifts. So there's, a big gap there. And it's estimated that between $4 and $7 billion of matching gifts funds is going just unclaimed each year. So an exciting area of opportunity just to tap into some extra funds for our fundraisers.
Wow. I really want to sort of dive into the fact that donors just have such low expectations.
I know.
Acknowledged. I think that we get so focused on this hamster wheel of donor acquisition and driving donations and getting buzz and getting engagement and getting likes and getting more and more and more donations at year end that we're starting to treat donors more like ATMs and less like humans. And I would love to, I want to dive into sort of how different generations see that. But how important is a nonprofit's online presence, website, social media, in the decision-making process for donors across different generations?
Yeah.
So like as we go into year end, how important is our online presence?
Yeah, super important. And it's every generation, right? Gen Z, the baby boomers, they're all online. So focus is definitely heavier amongst younger generations, right? So Gen Z and millennials. But the first place that donors of every single generation are going in that research phase is to an organization's website, followed by their social media pages. So, taking time to make sure that we're posting on social media, that can totally get forgotten, but regular posts, what's happening at your organization, but also on your website, that your links are working, and that your pages are reflective of what's happening at your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the first place people go. Even, my mom, who is a baby boomer, she loves her iPad, uses her iPad constantly. Actually, I was just over her house having coffee this morning, and we were talking about a couple of things, and she was looking things up and like exploring the website. She was on the website for my daughter's school trying to figure out something. And I think that is really the way that we are consuming information. We all have these little, digital phones. We all have these little computers in our pocket. So that's so important. You got to whip your website, your social media, your email into shape before year end, especially, but year round.
Yes.
So something that I found very surprising in the report, I read that digital wallets have surpassed checks as a preferred donation method. So what implications does this sort of finding have for nonprofits, and how can we adapt our fundraising strategies sort of accordingly?
Yeah. Big lesson, right? Digital wallets, they're no longer this nice to have, but they're a necessity.
Okay, sorry, but what are digital wallets for people that might not
digital
know?
wallets. Yeah, let's take it back. So think PayPal, think Venmo, think Apple Pay. So there are ways on our donation forms where our donors can just have minimal clicks. It's all preloaded information. And it's a really simple and easy way to donate and check out. But it's absolutely, convenience is so crucial in all of this. And we, again, want our donors people to check out with the least amount of clicks possible. And this is how so many people are preferring to spend and donate. I actually, there was an interesting article from Forbes, I think it was close to a year ago at this point. And it was saying that Americans are I think it was over 50% are preferring to spend with digital wallets. They are spending more with digital wallets, and they would stop shopping with a retailer that doesn't accept that form of payment. So we can kind of interpret that also for our fundraising, right? They might give me larger gifts. They might go spend somewhere else. They might give their donation to another organization. And again, just meeting donors where they are. If they're preferring to give that way, let's have that as an option on donation forms. It's absolutely a necessity now.
I think that's incredibly important. The whole principle of meeting donors where they are. And that's that's the evergreen takeaway, right? That's never going to go stale, because no matter what we're doing in 20 years, we always want to be meeting our donors where they are and not where we hope they will be. Like, we try to bring them along and encourage them to give or do things in the way that we want them to. But if we look at consumer behavior, and donor behavior follows consumer behavior, really everything is now going to, we were just talking about how we use Venmo for everything. And now Venmo is like for tips at bars, and people take Venmo and people take PayPal. And I'm thinking of my daughter, who is 15, and she literally will not be able to pay for something if it's not Apple Pay. She never knows where her debit card is. Like, she has one. That's not a thing. Like, everything is Apple Pay. Everything is, for her friends that might have Android, like Google Pay, everything is that digital wallet and that convenience. And I think that's hugely important to understand. So we have a question from Katie. How can we find out if our organization or company will match donations?
Yeah, so there's a few ways that I can think of, but with double the donation, if that's something that you're using, you can put that right in a donation form, and folks can actually search themselves right at that donation form if their company has matching gifts available. But we can contact, depending on the size of your organization and what they have available, if there is, a corporate giving, corporate social responsibility, a great place to start. But sometimes it's HR and that person that can be a catch-all for an organization.
Mm-hmm. That's I think Double the Donation is a fantastic resource. And yeah, usually just calling and talking to someone in your company to find out what the matching gifts are. There's so much money left on the table. You could actually really double, triple the donation. I know I've seen some companies matching even monthly gifts and things like that. So, okay, cool. Jesse has a question. I love these live questions that we're getting. Our donors are still going strong with checks. How can we open up to digital givers without alienating those moving with the digital trend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's multiple avenues, right? It's multiple channels that we're connecting with our donors. So, maybe it is a QR code on a direct mail appeal, but we're still collecting those checks. So it's just knowing preferences and being able to accept all forms of donations.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think is interesting about this report, is that we are not saying don't accept checks. We're simply saying, now that we're dealing with maybe 7 distinct generations of donors, we have to start thinking about, how do all of them like to give? And what are the ways that we can make it easier for all of them? And honestly, for some people, calling on the phone, and some people take donations over the phone, not the most secure way, in my opinion, but that might be a way that your donor prefers to give. For me, I like to give monthly. I like to give digitally. I like, that's what I like to give. And then, for another generation, it might be different. So I think when you talk to your board or you talk to decision makers, it's very important that you reiterate that it is our responsibility as fundraisers to be reaching donors where they are, whether that be a check or whether that be digital. And I think putting a QR code on your annual appeal is a brilliant idea, because you still send maybe the envelope, or you still send the response card. But for those people that, I'm not going to fill out something in the mail and get a stamp. I'm not going to do that, but I would definitely scan a QR code and give that way. So just, implementing these newer strategies to try to appeal to these multiple generations. And that's really what the point of the report is. That's sort of the purpose. Yeah. So another surprising finding, I'd love to talk about this. Gen Z favors in-person fundraising events. So talk about this, talk about some strategies that we can use to capitalize on this trend when we kind of all thought this was going away.
Yeah, it definitely made my little fundraising heart so happy
Yes.
to hear that Gen Z is excited about it. So I think firstly, the most simple answer is to start by inviting these folks to our event. I think it can be really easy as a fundraiser to assume that maybe baby boomers or Gen X are our ideal event attendee. It's not necessarily the case. And also having events that have a low barrier to entry, right? So maybe there is a cheaper ticket option, right? That can be a deterrent for Gen Z to attend our events, right? They might not have the funds to do it, but could we go virtual? Could we go live like we're doing right now? It doesn't have to be this, big fancy production. It can be if the resources are available. But if it's not, it can be something really simple. And I also would love for folks to connect peer-to-peer with Gen Z, right? So they are excited to fundraise, but they're also really excited about the causes that they're caring about.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to have a bigger impact. They want to have, they want to be able to give larger gifts, and they just can't right now. And so with peer-to-peer, we can, arm them with different resources to fundraise better. And it can just help those folks amplify their impact, which is what they're looking to do.
Mm-hmm. I think this is so interesting about Gen Z because I don't know many Gen Zers. I know my sister, who is Gen Z, and a few other people. And what I've seen is that COVID really, really decimated their ability to go into work and make those social connections, to even go to a bar, to go to a concert. That's where 20-year-olds connect with people, is in in-person events. And everything turned inward and turned digital. So there's almost this sort of revolt against that, where people of that generation, they really want to go back. They want to go back in person. They want to see people. They want to network. And they want to meet other people that care about the same kind of causes and issues that they do. So when I read that in the report, I thought that is probably a direct result of COVID. Mm-hmm. And potentially could be studied even further as a result of COVID. But I'm definitely seeing that people want to go out and about and do things more. And I'm actually seeing maybe older generations want to do that less, because we did that for so long. And we're kind of like, okay, give me a code or let me watch a live stream and I'll just do that. Yeah. I just thought that was so interesting. And it made my heart happy too, as a former event planner for nonprofits. I was really excited about it.
Totally.
So let's see. We talked about 60% of donors don't expect to be thanked for their donation. What are we doing? How are we rectifying this? How can nonprofits use this data to improve donor retention? Like, what are some things we can do?
Yeah. Initially, we mentioned this earlier, we're feeling a bit bummed reading that stat, but I'm choosing to think of this as a huge area for fundraisers to surprise and delight their donors, right? I think a lot of places kind of have this mindset of, the personal thank yous really are only going to major donors. And we can absolutely start trickling that down to smaller donors, but as important. And so I really want to encourage folks to extend those thank yous to more donors. And it doesn't have to be a call. It doesn't have to be a note, which is a great way to reach those folks, but it can also be voicemails and videos, which are really impactful, and texts. And we can get creative with our thank you notes, right? It doesn't have to be, we get a donation, we make the note. We can have these notes on hand. I think about my past experience having a kiddo in the classroom, right? Make a little note and sign it. It's so cute. And it's finding a way to make that personal connection from classroom, right, where the support is needed, to that donor, and all things that are just going to boost donor retention and engagement. And I think also, just because donors are not expecting a thank you doesn't mean that it's not necessary and important. They absolutely are. When we chatted about the Sustainable Giving Report last year, we found that a personal thank you is the best way to get someone to give again. I think it was like 80% of donors are going to give again after receiving that thank you. So Let's just extend it to more people. Let's talk to our donors. It is fun. It is fun to do, and I think we should all be doing it a bit more.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a way to, like you said, to stand out, to surprise and delight a donor. You can send a postcard. You could send a thank you email. I mean, in fact, if you're not sending a thank you email for digital donations, then that is completely on you, right? There's software available. Like when you get the donation, you have the email or the phone number, and you can automate that response. That's more than a tax receipt. That maybe is just a little bit more personalized. So I would recommend using the tools available, the automation tools, the digital tools available, and then I totally agree with what you just said, Wendy. We tend to think we only need to thank major donors. Well, what is a major donor? The other thing that's important is a lot of major donors experiment with quite a few nonprofits to see what happens. They'll give $100 gift here, a $50 gift there before they give you that 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, whatever it is. So they're experimenting. They're kind of testing you out. So the whole idea of segmenting donors into being like, okay, you gave me $10 a month, but you're not as worthy as someone that gives $50,000, I think is an antiquated mindset. And especially with the generational differences, we have to kind of get rid of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any specific stewardship practices that are particularly effective across different generations?
Yes. So across every generation,
we'll get to them. Yes.
There were a few stewardship preferences that remain true for everyone. Firstly, right, all donors are wanting monthly updates that do not include fundraising asks. So this is the power of the monthly newsletter here. We know from this report that donors of all ages are really looking forward to hearing monthly updates about programs, about clients, even staff spotlights. And it's an incredibly valuable tool to stay in touch with donors. I've seen organizations that have cut it because it can be a lot of work. And I've actually been the receiving end, right, of a nonprofit cutting it. And then they make that ask, and it feels really off, right? It takes a minute to like reorientate yourself with the organization. And so sending that monthly newsletter is so important, and it's going to eliminate that lack of connection that donors can feel. And actually, that was the top reason we found that donors are going to stop giving, was because they're not feeling connected to the organization. So the power of the monthly newsletter right there. And then, as we chatted about earlier, just finding those ways to extend those thank yous to more folks, to surprise and delight your donors and surpass their expectations. So thank you notes, calls, videos, text, all of it. A great way just to boost that engagement and retention.
And thankfully or unfortunately, their expectations are pretty low. So we've got the bar can be raised. Okay, we can raise the bar. I love this comment / questions. What are your thoughts on a junior or student board that reaches out to their peer group?
Yeah,
very cool.
I think that sounds super exciting. I want one of those at my organization if I'm fundraising, right? They can get out into the community, advocate for you, and you can provide resources to help them make that advocacy a bit easier. I think that sounds super exciting. And I saw a question too about young professional groups.
Yes.
I'm curious about that, but I would almost argue that LinkedIn is a wonderful way to connect with folks of Gen Z and millennials, right? We're active on there. I think that's a great spot to connect.
And when I used to be a member of those young professionals groups, we would always be getting together for a cause. Yeah. So I'm thinking specifically of like a bar crawl or like a running club or something like that. We would be getting together, and then, we'd all be chipping in $5, $10, and it would always be supporting a cause. And it was usually a cause that one of the members cared about, one of the people organizing the event cared about, but it was because they had been connected with this organization and they felt really strongly about it, and they had been stewarded and sent materials and encouraged to say, if you ever are with your friends or you're hanging out or you're having this, this kind of social gathering, why not share some information on our cause? So I really do think that the moral of this story is that we assume young people don't have any money, which is, who knows? Like, we never make an assumption. And then we assume that baby boomers only want to give in one way and don't want to be contacted digitally. Like, we're making so many assumptions about generations that could be harmful and could be like really detrimental to our fundraising success.
Yeah.
So Chastity asked, what automation tools do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Qgiv and Bloomerang are amazing automation tools, just saying.
Yeah, no, I was going to say definitely Qgiv and Bloomerang have those features available that as soon as that donation is made, there's a response going to that donor. I think we even have the ability to chuck in a video there, right? And say, talk a little bit more about how that donation is impacting the organization. But I think most softwares have that ability. All right, I hope that they do.
Yeah, so I use ConvertKit. I don't do fundraising in my business, but I use an email tool called ConvertKit, which could actually easily sync up with any of your CRMs or your donor software, like a Qgiv or a Bloomerang. The key here is just to know like the name of the person, the amount they gave, when they gave. Like, there's all sorts of things you need to know. And then you can automate a response that says, Julia, your $10 gift on Giving Tuesday was amazing. Here's 5 ways you can get more involved with our nonprofit right now. So the key is just to know, like, oh, they just gave, so maybe you're not going to ask them again for a little while. You have some kind of stewardship process in place. The real key is just to have some software that helps you understand your donors better and helps you personalize that kind of communication. You might not know their age, you might not know their wealth. I mean, there's all sorts of software you can purchase for that. But the real key, just know when they gave, how much they gave, like what they're interested in, and how they gave. Did they give via check? Did they give online? Did they give via Venmo? However they did it. I think that will just help you sort of see and be able to analyze the data and get more information on maybe some of the ways that some of the areas you're not focusing on that you could be focusing on more. Okay. So Wendy, did you have something to add?
No.
Okay. Based on the findings of this report, what trends do you foresee? What trends do you foresee in the future?
Yeah. Digital wallets, they're not going anywhere. Those form of payments are here to stay. Something that I thought was super exciting is that each generation is placing less and less importance and weight in knowing the organizational overhead, right, of the nonprofit. And so I'm optimistic that is going to continue. And I really just am excited to kind of follow Gen Z and see how their enthusiasm increases for fundraising events and how they, continue to make an impact in what their giving preferences will look like.
I think that's so exciting. I really agree with you. What matters to older generations, I mean, this is, of course, a generalization, but in my experience, older donors, I'm thinking of like my parents' generation, really like causes that they have, they really like their alma mater, right? Like my dad is very involved with his university. My mom gives to hospitals, like trusted institutions that are huge, that have been in the community for years and years and years. And younger people, that doesn't really matter. It's sort of like, are you getting the job done? Is this something I care about? How can I participate? Where are the receipts? What is happening in the community that I can see that it's actively making an impact, or that I can communicate on social media. And having that digital presence is so important for nonprofits that kind of want to stay relevant to all generations. And this was definitely something that was gone over in the report pretty extensively. So if you are, I mean, we're coming up at time, but if you are sort of a small bootstrapping shop of one person, what would your number one maybe recommendation be, Wendy, for using all of these trends and insights to really help what you're doing at year end?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely encourage folks to head to the report. There's 8 omni-generational takeaways there that you can implement just for the best fundraising possible. But it would probably be that newsletter, right? That monthly newsletter, because it touches so many aspects of this report, where it's donor retention, it's engagement, it's giving the people the stories that they're interested in knowing about. So I think that's where I would personally start, but I think everyone should head to the report and learn a bit more, because it's going to be different for every organization.
Exactly. I like that. Take the trends from the report, learn from them. Every organization is different. Every cause is different. Every mission focus is different, and every audience is different. So what can, look at the report, take what you will, see what you can adapt and see what you can change. I also recommend, my quick plug for my year-end blueprint, where we go over how to use your website, how to use your email, how to use social media on Giving Tuesday and year end. It's a really great primer on what's working now, what are the trends, what's happening, and how you can sort of how you can adapt that. So, Wendy, how can people find more about you, find more about Qgiv and Bloomerang?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me here, but definitely go to qgiv.com, bloomerang.com. All the info is there. There's so many free resources that can supplement all of these findings in the report if you want some more information on any topic that we discuss. So head there to find out more.
Awesome. All right. I put the links in the comments. And if you're listening on Nonprofit Nation on the podcast, I will put all the links in the show notes, the link to the report, the link to the year-end session, and the link to Qgiv and Bloomerang's website and Wendy's LinkedIn if you want to connect with Wendy there. So thanks so much, Wendy. I'm so happy. It's so great to talk to you.
Yes, this is a lot of fun.
And thank you everybody for joining live. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye, everyone.